Everybody, welcome to Holistic Hustle. I'm joined by
Coach Daniel.
And I'm Life Coach Angel. Welcome. We're talking about overcoming plateaus.
Oh, yeah.
What's a plateau, Danny? How do you define a plateau?
You're stuck.
You're stuck.
You're not making progress.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's
it.
That's it. You're just stuck. It's level. You're probably like bored.
You're not going forward. You're not going backwards.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, bleh.
By the way, we're not just going to cover like fitness plateaus. We're going to cover like overall plateaus when it comes to our personal growth.
By the way, we're in downtown West, right?
Downtown West.
Geekdom is technically in downtown West.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's west of the Riverwalk.
Okay.
So
is that like the newest?
Yeah, it's like they're really revamping it, and Western Urban's taking a big lead on that. Natalie Smith did something really great the other day.
Nice.
She invited us all and called us stakeholders in the community, which was great.
Oh, that's great.
Which was awesome. It was like a mixture of like awareness, also an opportunity to meet mutual business owners,
like leaders in the communings.
Yeah, and awesome. Almost empowered us with some really cool resources and knowledge and things to do to just get the word out there, because it takes a village to be able to create,
to make change.
Yeah, to make change and have a supportive,
sustainable change
community. Yeah.
Well, shout out to Downtown West.
Yeah, here we are.
So overall plateaus, man. Like, what has been your experience? Like, when the last time you experienced a plateau, do you remember when that was? Because I know where mine was.
You know, it's hard for me to hit a plateau or like try to. Okay, a plateau. I always try to avoid being in a plateau. Right? I think I'm just obsessed. Like, I'm literally obsessed with getting better, because I know the man I want to become, and that takes exposing yourself to ongoing challenges. Right? So
and it takes having a long-term vision. You have to be able to know long-term without. Because it hasn't happened yet. Like, it's still evolving, it's still developing. So you have to have this long-term vision of yourself, and not everybody has that.
And it's hard, you know. Like I think my one example would be more on like the business, right? To be you kind of like sometimes you fall into the rut of like, okay, this is working, and it worked well for the past few years, so let's just keep it going.
If it's not broken, why fix it?
Yeah. So I've made that mistake, but at the same time, there is there's beauty in that. There's beauty in consistency. There's beauty in like showing up and doing the same thing over and over. But you also hit a plateau, and then 1, 2, 3 years down the line, you're like wondering, why isn't this thing going to the next level? So that would be my only example. As far as the gym goes, I try to keep things pretty exciting, fresh and new. A new way of training, a new goal, and I just, there's always an objective. Same thing with my clients. I always try to push them.
So from a fitness standpoint, just to start there, what could be an example of a plateau in the fitness world? In the
fitness, like in a journey, right? In a fitness journey is whenever you just are lifting the same weight, you're probably doing the same amount of reps. You don't see any changes in body composition, like you haven't dropped any body fat, you haven't increased any muscle mass. You haven't overcome those initial injuries and aches and imbalances in your body just yet. That just means that you haven't been specific with your training, or you haven't been consistent with your training.
So it would be safe to say that you've made some initial results. You've gotten some initial results, or probably for a little while, and you're happy with what you're at, and you're doing what got you there. But to a certain point, that really doesn't do anything anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I see people in the gym all the time doing the same routine. and like they're doing the best they can, right? They're doing great. They're doing good. They're not doing optimal. They're not doing great. They're doing, let's
optimal.
say, yeah. So it's all about optimizing, right? If to avoid a plateau, but like more power to them. They're showing up to the gym. They're showing up 3, 4, 5 times a week, but they do the same routine over and over again. So if you do that, you start to develop a lot of like negative things when it comes to your body, right? Adverse effects, and your body's also adapted to those movement patterns. So that's the mistake I see the most, is like the same routine, probably the same routine they did in their high school football,
right?
Strength and conditioning program, for example.
They've
right?
been doing the same thing for years.
Yeah. And they haven't thought about, okay, well, I'm a 45, 50-year-old man. I should probably consider a little bit more mobility. I should probably consider just trying out new exercises that are not as like linear. I see that mistake quite a bit, which is like almost like very front, back, up, down, very linear, where people don't do as many like multi-directional movements.
Is that when you're getting more into like functionality training?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of beauty to that. There's a lot of benefits to that, and then in terms of like your overall body, it helps you avoid sticking to or having too many tight muscles and having the opposite muscles being a little bit inactive, which they're not firing.
So here's when I remember when I was in a plateau. And by the way, like, how could you tell you're getting to a place, possibly approaching a plateau? How comfortable are you with where you're at? There's like a level of like, I'm comfortable, I'm not being challenged, I'm not having any kind of like necessarily like conflict and struggle in this area. Again, we talked about resiliency in the last episode about the benefit and the value and challenge, conflict, struggle, right? A little bit of suffering. But
it's funny you brought up like the mental side of it too. Right. It's just kind of like, meh.
Right. Yeah. There's just a little bit of like, oh, I'm comfortable. Like, you know, there may even not be like a certain level of like excitement. You know, it's like, oh, you're just coasting. There's like like you're in neutral, you're coasting down, like you're just coasting, right? And if you don't do something yourself, like for me, I was working at another coaching company. Yeah. It was a wellness entrepreneurship coaching company. I was the leadership and mindset coach, and I was approaching 5 years. Now, you have to be careful with what you say, because when I first got that opportunity, I said, hey, I'm probably going to be here for about 5 years. Again, in 5 years, like, for example, that's like a master's degree or like a PhD. I don't know how long those things take, but it's like a higher level of education. So I feel like I got like a master's degree, PhD degree education in my career field, in that job. I learned a lot. They equipped me, they strengthened me, they made me better. But I was in a very comfortable position. I wasn't getting necessarily challenged. And the universe said, boop. They gave me the boot. They downsized, and they didn't really have a role for my position anymore based on their financial situation. And then guess what? Life got really exciting then. Like, I had to figure out how to get back on my feet. What am I going to do next? Do I want to employ myself again? Do I want to go on my own?
There goes your salary.
Right. There goes your salary. Yeah. There goes your stability, your consistency, that comfort that you got used to. Now you got to like, okay, now things are like this, right? And then you got to be able to figure it out in the midst of that perceived chaos, you know? But again, I got to comfort. And for a while there, I was already getting that feeling of like, I probably need to do something a little differently. I was already feeling like I needed to go on my own. I was getting that itch to try to do my own thing. But
you were probably like, were you getting like bitterness or agitation or anything?
No.
Were you appreciative of the situation you were in?
Oh, so I mean,
see, that's good.
I would
at least you had that.
I would have write that out.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I wouldn't have gotten that push, like that nudge out of the nest, I would have write that out. Right, and then I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you. Yeah, because I would be writing that out. But then you get that like feeling, that inner knowing where like
I'm complacent.
I need to be doing that.
I could be doing something more impactful,
or more challenging for me, or more fulfilling for me. And then you're like, but I'm comfortable. And you didn't do anything. And if you're not careful, you're gonna get that nudge, and then you're gonna be on your own. So
Yeah,
that's kinda
ready or not, you're gonna overcome that plateau.
Fly.
We're gonna switch things up.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly how it was. So, how do you overcome a plateau?
Make it harder. Yeah, just make things a little harder.
Find ways to make it more challenging.
A little harder, a little different, and a lot of the times it's like getting your brain to be challenged. Because if you think about it, like with everything you do, there has to be like cognitive interaction, right? There cognitive interference. You can't just like put yourself in a situation, whether it's like physically or situationally, without like getting your brain caught up. And there's something that is so beautiful about the human brain that if you don't do something new for the rest of your life, it like starts to deteriorate, right? So how do you fight back against like your brain aging?
Right.
That's the most important thing. Is
keep learning,
keep
it active,
keep doing something new, more challenging.
But that's why they say learn something new every day. Learn something new every day, right? And do things that challenge your physical, your physical aspects, right? That gets you to move in a different way that you didn't move before. Something that challenges your mental capacity, that makes you think harder, differently, or for a longer amount of time. Something that challenges your emotional capacity, right? To go deeper, to feel something uncomfortable, right? Something that challenges your spiritual connection, right? So all those things are really, really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to the brain thing. I'm sorry.
Do it.
I heard everything you said. But the one thing I forgot to mention is like people think about like the gym about getting stronger.
Like physically.
Like everybody thinks it's at a muscular level that your big muscles lift heavy weights, right? No, it's like you get the stimulus. Like if you're under that bench press and you add a little bit more weight, you know what that feeling is like because I train you in the gym, right? So you add a little bit of weight. The brain is like, oh, okay. Roger that.
Yeah.
I need to adapt. So you're going to be in that really awful situation for that first really hard rep. So it's like your muscles are sending signals to your brain and back, and then you pump through. But then the next time you come back, your brain and muscular system have developed a new connection for you to adapt. So it's not like that your muscles got a little bigger from one week to the next. It's that the brain was like, okay, I need to be ready for this new stimulus.
Right.
Let me compensate. Let me overcompensate. Let me adapt, and let me get ready for that. And that alone, I mean, it's like you gotta have the stimulus, and it's gotta be a little bit more difficult than before, or a little bit different than before. And then you have to allow the body, the brain, your emotions, whatever it is, to adapt. And then you show up.
It's like a reset. It resets to a whole nother level.
And then you have to recover.
Right.
So I think it's like, so it's a stimulus, recovery, then adapt. So like if you're reading something, you have to get a great night's rest before it actually is like absorbed.
Right.
So people forget that part of it.
So it needs also
time.
Like strengthening you're strengthening your body, but you're also strengthening your brain, and you're keeping it. It's like brain health too.
And there's a ton of research on the correlation of like brain health and strength training, right? So Alzheimer's disease, right, is not as prevalent as people that are physically active, and specifically with resistance training.
I love that. So, bro, when talking about the brain, like I learned this little factoid, and I use it a lot when I teach. When people are learning something new, and when you're going to maybe level up or go through those changes to keep it exciting, or to like, challenge yourself to go to the next level, right? There's a frustration and awkwardness and uncomfortableness when you're doing something that you're not quite good at. Right? That happens.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm talking about?
I see that all the time.
Right. And people don't like that feeling because we tend to take it as an identity hit, like as a hit on our identity, like, oh, I suck.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not good at this. When in reality, it's like just because you're being good at things all your life, you're not always going to be good at everything, especially not right away. That's not how the learning process works. You're going to suck at first.
As you should.
As you should. And in order for you to get good at or great at that thing, you have to do it while you suck.
Yep.
Right? But that feeling, I'm going back to that feeling.
But it's inevitable.
Yes.
You just have to overcome it.
It's just part of it.
It's like part of human.
It's just part of it.
The human condition, right?
It is. Like you can't escape
You have to put a name to it too.
But people want to avoid it. People don't like that feeling.
Especially if it's in front of other people, right?
Right. I'm going to tell you something about that. But that's that feeling, that awkwardness, that uncomfortableness, that frustration from a neurological perspective is creating the new synapses that are going to help you to learn, remember, retain, and make the adjustments that you need to make to learn that thing you're trying to learn.
Yep.
So we're trying to push it away because we don't like the way that feels in us. But that's the same thing that's helping us learn.
But I think as we have to remind ourselves to create the environment for the people around us,
right,
in order to give them the space to do that.
Right.
Even if you don't do it verbally, what you do in terms of like your body language as an observer is so important, right?
Yeah,
like the day we went shooting,
right.
I knew I was going to be awful, but I'm like, okay, this guy's not going to make me feel horrible. And I was surrounded by a group of guys that were really cool.
Right. And you did great, by the way.
Thank you. And it's like, it makes me wonder, right? So watching my 2-year-old son, like, get really frustrated. Like, even with something simple as like not putting like a triangle, like putting a square in a triangle hole, right? And he gets so frustrated
when it's not happening.
Like, it just made me realize that when I chuckled, it made me realize that feeling's never gonna go away.
It doesn't. But you bring up a good point. The environment that you put yourself in, who do you surround yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to encourage you, that are going to support you, that are going to, they may challenge you, but at the same time, they got you. Yeah. They're not going to shame you. They're not going to embarrass you.
They're not going to tell how awful you were.
Talk crap about you. They're not going to criticize you. They'll give you feedback. Yeah. And they'll because they're invested in your growth. And that's really, really important too. Like, who you surround yourself with makes a big difference in your results.
But also, like, if that same person that's not allowing that kind of like creating that environment for change to happen, right? Like watching, like, not creating that environment, that welcoming environment to allow you to suck. The person on that end also does that to themselves.
That's true,
right? Like, if they do that for other people, they're creating that toxic environment. They're doing it times 10.
And that's the other thing. You can also be that person to yourself as well. Yep. So be careful that you're not, like, again, self-care, self-love, that you're not beating yourself up to the point that you just don't want to do something. Yeah. You still have to have some kind of, like, hope and, willingness and openness to the process. Because as frustrating as it is, again, your neurons are firing. Yeah. And they're helping you learn. So that's why they say, stay in the uncomfortable. Yeah. Get comfortable at being uncomfortable, because that's where growth happens. Because in the garden of comfort, nothing grows. Yeah. Nothing grows.
And it makes me, like, have an appreciation for, like, stand-up artists. Right. Or stand-up comedians, artists. Have you watched that show, Kill Tony? So they give them 1 minute. Like, some of them are rookies, some of them are experienced. They invite people back, and it's all at random, right? So they get called up and they have 1 minute to do their spiel, right? And so like, watching it, some of it is so cringy, but it makes you appreciate, like, the freaking cojones, right? The courage of these people to get up there in the first place.
That's why they say do something that scares you. Yeah. Get in the habit of doing things that scare you, that freak you out.
Exactly, right? But it's like, and sometimes you have to do things like your brain can't tell the difference, right? It's difficult, and it's like,
because it doesn't know. It doesn't have a reference point.
But it's also, like, feels like it's life-threatening.
It does feel that way.
Yeah, right? And then, like, I feel like we're tribal, like, we're tribal creatures, right?
We are.
So, like, if you do something that's not accepted and it's embarrassing, it's like, then it's going to be ostracized, and you might get secluded from the crew. So you have to, like, realize that, like, okay, like, I'm an advanced primate. I'm a primate nonetheless, right? And just overcoming that at all costs.
But that's what growth takes risks. Yeah. It takes risk. It really, really does. The other thing I was going to tell you is, like, the value of having a coach
Yeah.
or someone to hold you accountable, because in physics they did an experiment where they looked at how particles and waves behave, right? And I don't know the name of the experiment, but it's out there if you Google it.
Fact check it.
The way a wave behaves when it's not being observed versus the way it behaves when it is being observed. When there's an observer, the wave behaves as particles, but when it's not being observed, it's just a wave, right? Well, we are energy as well. Like, we're particles of energy. So the way we're behaving where someone's observing us, when this guy's coaching me and he's watching me, I may do a couple extra reps, but if I was by myself, and
I'm a really supportive coach. It's not like I'm going to make you feel like shit.
No, you are.
Just for the record.
But my point is, like, when there's someone there,
yeah,
and they're perceiving you, they're watching you, you're being seen, you have a tendency to maybe want to do better than if nobody's watching you. You're like, maybe I'll just do one less rep.
Yeah, nobody will know.
Nobody will know. But it matters who's there, and so that having a coach, having that accountability, there's a high value to that. So speaking of that, coach, when it comes to fitness, right? How can someone overcome, like, some simple practical tips for, like, shaking up the workout and overcoming that plateau?
Yeah, to overcome plateaus, I think fundamentally you have to do new exercises. That's like the safest route, to just kind of switch things out. New exercises in the sense of, like, if you're used to doing it one directionally, maybe add another component to that. That's the safest route, right? The next one would be to add a few more reps, right? So if you're doing like 10 reps, use that same weight and push it to 12 and then push it to 15. Okay, great. The body adapts. Then you could add more weight to the bar or to whatever exercise you're doing. Everybody always thinks like progressive overload in the idea think of it in terms of adding more weight every time, but that's not the most important thing every time. It also depends on your goals too, and just trying new things.
Like compounding the compound exercises, right?
Like doing 2-3 movements at a time. Like if you're used to doing bicep curls, okay, great. Now can you do like a lunge, bring up into the bicep? Great. That's step 2. Step 3 is like lunge, bicep curl to an overhead press with the same dumbbells. Now you've made that progression as well. And I genuinely believe that as a coach, that's why I keep bringing people back to the gym, is because we're always setting a new bar. I always try to grow with my clients.
Good.
And I'm fortunate enough to have been doing this a really long time, and I'm also I've worked really hard to learn like almost like the human performance peak of it, so then I can grow with my clients. And as a coach, you always want to almost equip yourself to train somebody. Like if somebody wanted to eventually go do some professional sport and they're in a decent age and I see potential, I could probably get them there. Right. So it's like over preparing to be able to grow with the client. And that's the beauty in growth as a human being, is setting the bar high and always shooting a little bit higher every time.
Changing it up, keeping it exciting, right? I love it. And the thing about it is too, is like, man, like when it comes to growth, like when we feel that soreness of the workout and we feel that pain that the muscles are in, as much as it hurts sometimes, we like it.
It's a sense of accomplishment,
because
for sure.
you know something's happening. It's the same thing with everything else. Emotional pain, mental pain, spiritual pain. There's growth happening.
You're not just, man.
Right. There's growth happening. But those we don't want to feel them because we think it hurts more. And maybe it does. I don't know. But pain is pain.
Right?
Pain is pain. So if you're willing to put yourself through pain to grow your body and make your body stronger, put yourself through pain to grow yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well.
And it goes against what we want to do.
I know.
Right? It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive. Doesn't make sense, right? Almost like physical therapy.
That's how we grow, man.
Like you go into physical therapy, they're making you do exercises, right? They're going to do some hard stuff.
And you're in pain.
Oh, yeah.
But the same thing with if a bone didn't heal properly, how do they fix it? They re-break it. And then they position it in the right place. So that's, again, pain again. So I know we don't like it, but The way we grow is through pain.
Can we summarize this by saying that in order to break a plateau, breaking is painful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to break a plateau, you have to endure some sort of pain?
Yes, sir. I would summarize it that way. 100%.
Well, that's a wrap, man.
That is another wrap.
In the books.
See y'all next time.